I got my black belt in 3 years and 11 months, which is 2.5 times faster than your average hobbyist gets in 10 years. I did, however, make some incredibly crucial errors throughout my time training, and if I had to start again, this is exactly what I'd be telling myself on day one to go from white to black even faster. Focus on position, not submission. When I first started the sport, just like everybody else, you get incredibly excited about how you can submit your training partners and ensure that you're the one that gets bragging rights in the locker room. Now, the first DVD or first instructional I ever purchased was Lachlan Giles' High Percentage No-Gi Chokes Anthology. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. That was a God's gift to me. I learned how to das, I learned how to anaconda, I learned Japanese necktie. None of my training partners could do anything to stop me from strangling them, almost unconscious every single time. But the problem with this was that I didn't focus on passing, I didn't focus on guard, I had no takedowns, no wrestling, no judo, and anything else. So if I was to have my time again, I would put submissions on the back burner while I learnt fundamental skills like passing half guard and pin escapes, which would have furthered my development a lot faster than I already have. Tone the intensity down to learn way faster. Everybody does this when they first start training. They go in and they drink from the fire hose, get as much information as possible, and then they go absolutely nuts on their training partners at 100%. Now, if I was to ask you what's the best way for you to learn, is it me increasing my pace and talking like this, or is it slowing everything down in a measurable tone so that you can actually understand what I'm saying and process the information all at once? I dare say you would say the latter, not the former. And jiu-jitsu is the exact same thing. So if you were to take your training down from 100% trying to kill your training partner all the way down to 60%, you'll actually see more of the things that are coming towards you. You'll recognize patterns faster, and you'll be in a much better position to learn like I didn't when I first started. Be well-rounded, not one-dimensional. Now, I was not a well-rounded grappler when I first began. Like I spoke about earlier in the video, I was a Lachlan Giles DVD student, and all I knew was how to front headlock strangle people. I had a decent hand post single leg into das combination, but that was about all I knew how to do. So when people learned how to defend what I knew how to do in competition and in training, I got incredibly frustrated. But I didn't have the foresight to assume that I was meant to do something else. In my infancy, when I was a white belt, I decided that I just needed to use more strength, more power, more explosiveness, and be faster than my opponents. And that led me to very mixed results, where sometimes I would get what I wanted, and most of the time I didn't. And I'd actually incurred a much larger recovery debt so that I was sore in the next session, and sometimes I wasn't really that motivated to train. So if that's you, consider becoming a little bit more than one-dimensional, and you'll likely have more tools to deal with the circumstances that your training partner is delivering you. You'll be less sore and you'll be learning more. Avoid trying to win training rounds. When I first started, I had the weirdest training room on planet Earth. Every single one of my training partners was jacked, had a sporting background, had done some sort of army or police work, and was above 85 kilos. So you can imagine what the training room was like. We would absolutely destroy each other by using strength, speed, agility, and power. And we had a great time, don't get me wrong, but we would have learnt so much more if we weren't hyper fixated on who submitted who and who scored on who and who was better than who based on how many submissions you got. So if you want to learn faster, don't worry about winning training rounds, worry about building skills. Analyze your training to make fewer mistakes. If I had done this from the very beginning of my training, I would have figured out all of those previous lessons in a much faster capacity. Now, in and around the blue belt level, I actually did start to jot down some notes after my sessions of the common themes that were coming up. And I started to recognize these things after doing them for about 6 to 7 months. Had I been analyzing my training a lot sooner in my career, I would have noticed those mistakes quite quickly. And I dare say that you guys watching at home are making the same mistakes during most of your training rounds again and again and again. And there's actually a good story by a guy called Josh Waitzkin who wrote The Art of Learning. Waitzkin, who wrote The Art of Learning. He talked about the fact that Marcelo Garcia has never been caught with the same thing in training more than once. Imagine the speed of learning that you could have if you were only caught in something once instead of 2, 3, 4, 500 times, which most of you guys are. So if you analyze your training, you'll be able to circumvent that. Build your training up slowly. I've coached thousands of people to get better faster at the sport of jiu-jitsu. And the one biggest thing that I make sure that they do not do is pile on, going from 0 training sessions to 10 training sessions a week. It is going to destroy your body. You're not going to learn anything. Your motivation is going to go in the toilet. And you're probably going to become one of those statistics of 90% of white belts that don't make it to blue belt. What I recommend instead, and what I learned via doing this, I actually didn't make this mistake, but this is very valuable information for you guys. Build your training sessions up slowly. When I first started, I was a personal trainer, and so I couldn't really train all that much because I had a lot of clients to look after. So I'd go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the first 2 or 3 months of my training. Then I slowly realized that teaching people how to get less fat was really boring and jiu-jitsu was phenomenal. So I slowly started to introduce a Tuesday session. Then I started training at 2 gyms, and I started doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday mornings, as well as the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons. Then you get to my current schedule now: 3 sessions Monday, 2 Tuesday, 3 Wednesday, 2 Thursday, 1 Friday, 1 Saturday, and Sunday off. But that took me about 2.5 years to build up to that stage. So if you slow your progression of the amount of sessions that you're doing, you're likely to avoid a bunch of injuries, and you won't be as sore after training every session. Listen to your coach. One of the biggest things for my career development was when my coach, Luke, who was my current coach in my current gym, said to me my first session, he said, "You are going to spend 6 months on your back, starting every round from lying on the floor. I do not want you trying to wrestle up, and I do not want you playing on top unless you've swept them to earn that right." The reason he told me that was because big guys that come into the sport who are super athletic do not want to develop a bottom position because it's unfamiliar to them, and they won't have to go there if they don't want to. Usually the biggest problem for most people in the sport is they only do what they want and not what they need. I needed to spend 6 months on my back. And now, as a result of that, 4 and a bit years later, I have a pretty decent guard game for a big guy, and I'm not too scared to go there in a match. That was absolutely crucial at the very beginning, and so listen to your coach when they tell you important details. Losing in competition is your best motivator for development. I remember my first loss like it was yesterday. I was at a competition down in Melbourne, which is widely known as the Nationals for Australia. It's a big competition. A lot of people go and they fly from all over the country to go there. And I remember not knowing the rules correctly for IBJJF style tournaments. So I ended up getting taken down and passed into side control. And I ended up escaping, taking the other guy down 3 times. But each of the subsequent takedowns after the first one I took him down were out of bounds, which means I didn't get the points and I ended up losing 5-2. Now, instead of getting really upset by this, I used that as motivation to think about my strategy for the next match and went right into the absolute division without really beating myself up too much, only to find that same opponent 30 minutes later, taking them down, submitting them on the back, and claiming victory. If I had have attempted to just lick my wounds on that day and not recognize losing as your best motivator for development, then I probably wouldn't have that story to tell you today. So losing is not the worst thing, and it's actually really good for you. Tap early in training. I haven't been popped in training very often because this is one of the things that was drilled into me at the very beginning, but I know that some of you haven't been told this advice. I remember a situation where I was with a very tough purple belt. His name's Jason, and he loves toe holds. I didn't want to give Jason the toe hold, but I learnt my lesson pretty quickly when my foot started to make the noise that happens when you step on top of a Cocoa Pops box and go. My foot was very sad for a couple of weeks after that, and it actually did limit my enjoyment of training. If I'd have just accepted that I'd been toe held, tapped early, I could have gone on with that round unimpeded, and the next couple of weeks wouldn't have slowed down my progression. Don't avoid bad positions. Just like I was talking about in the middle of the video, you usually do what you want and not what you need. If you do that, you'll end up getting found out in competition. And that's what happened to me when I had my fight with Gordon. I hadn't done the necessary development in my leg locking to be able to navigate that situation cleanly and sharply inside the pressure situation of competition. Now, he's the best to have ever done it, and it's not that bad of a loss. It ended up happening again 2 months later against his teammate, Big Dan. Fuck you, Dan. I hope he sees this. Between those 2 points, I made the mistake of not religiously obsessing about all of the things that I could have done to escape the double trouble position correctly from the Gordon fight all the way up until ADCC. And it is something that I have done post those 2 matches. So if you do get caught in position in training or in competition, don't avoid it, obsess over it, and find out interesting ways that you can deal with that position, which will be much better for your development long term than avoiding it. Let me know how many of these you didn't realize you were doing down below in the comments. And if you like this video is being recommended to you because YouTube's way smarter than you and it knows you better than you. So enjoy that one for me too.